Hi, this is Chris at Clever Unicorn Games and the Unicorn Collective, back with another interview with probably, I don't want to put him under pressure, but one of my heroes in the industry. It's Ronnie Renton from Mantic Games.
Too kind. Hi, Chris. How are you?
I am good, and it's good to see you out there enjoying this nice weather under the circumstances that we're in.
Yeah, I just had to get in the back garden today. I've been tidying up and working at the emails the last 2 weeks solid. So the sun came out, and I thought, well, I can. Since I was going to technically challenged anyway, I had no idea what Discord business was anyway. I thought, well, if we're going to learn, let's learn to do it in the sun. So try to catch some rays.
Yeah, I'll be out there as well. Once we've finished, I think I'll take the kids out and run around the garden for a bit.
Yeah, exactly that.
So everybody knows what you do, but what do you like to do when you're not creating games?
Well, I mean, I create games. We sell games. So maybe if I'm not creating them, I'm selling them. How about that? I mean, Mantic is pretty all-consuming. I'll be honest with you. I mean, other than family time and trying to get some sleep, hobby business is a pretty all-consuming affair. And there isn't a lot of bandwidth to do other things because there's always things that can be done. People are passionate about it. People often want to talk about your games when they're not at work, which should be when you're not at work, but obviously it isn't. So, I'll obviously spend usually an hour each night on Messenger and on Facebook, kind of telling people and doing questions and answers and things. So, I mean, other than getting a little bit of holiday each year and spending some time with the family, there is very little time when you're not thinking or working or spending time thinking about or talking about our games.
Now, I can understand that, especially with Mantic being as big as it is and having so many products. Yeah, there's a lot to keep track of.
Yeah, and I've got a great team. I mean, the fantastic thing is everybody that works there's a fan. So we all do our day's work, and then all of us can't stay off social media for an hour or two in the evening. I mean, we do try and not do, but if you're playing Vanguard and thoroughly enjoying it, you're more than happy to be on the Vanguard, Fanatics group or Kings of War or whatever. So, during lockdown in my evenings, I'm lining up to play a huge 10,000 point aside Battle of Kings of War. And so when I've done some work, I photograph it, I put it up on the Facebook, Kings of War Fanatic page. And it generates some chat, and then you end up chatting about it. So it's all the team are always happy. They're involved in one game or the other and are on there chatting away. So, it does usually mean we're quite noticeable on social media, but it is important people have time away as well and can switch the phone off and have some family time and not get too consumed by it.
We've not had any crazy Bobby in lockdown yet, though.
We had a video done. We just didn't think it was appropriate in the circumstances. So if you remember, there was some Lord Farquhar, Smythe, Smith and Weston that kicked it all off. Where we did a kind of Fallout Shelter English voiceover that I did, and Rob had done a crazy Bobby for a kind of sale because we just opened up and said, look, here's some games, we can stick them in the poster with you in a few days. But we never got run. So I was like, just say, look, here's a video we didn't run. And maybe over the opening day weekend, I might get him to run it, but he was like being sensible, saying, no, we can't. I think people are trying to get on with it and guess the best they can. But it was videoed, it was done.
It maybe come out once everything's all died down and it's all
yeah, exactly. It's that, yeah. We didn't want to be, and we were trying to get people to just download our rules for free or use Mantic Digital. But the reality is when people are trapped in and you need some paints and you've got some hobby time, I think for mental health reasons, getting a little box of something that takes you away from Netflix and takes you away from everything else, it's really important. And, we already had social distancing in place in the work. I'd already sent all the staff home to work from home where they could, even before lockdown, because I just thought, well, why are we taking this risk? There's clearly something bad happening. And so we were very, very security and safety conscious running into the lockdown. And we just maintained that. So, we felt very, touch wood, safety conscious that we could keep supplying stuff and not put the staff or customers at risk, and that, touch wood, has been the case. But I think for people's sanity, that's a bit of a strong word, but you know what I mean, about goodwill and good feeling and energy levels, you need to have things you're looking forward to, and a hobby process. It's thinking about what you're going to play, thinking about what you're going to buy, going online and doing it, waiting for the order to come, unpacking it, then starting to paint it, then playing it. So you get a lot of fun out of one of these boxes. And I think in these times, that's really, really, really important.
Yep, you're right. 100% right. And we're in a position as well where our hobby is something that, even though you might not be able to play it, because there's the building and the painting involved as well, it's something you can do on your own as well as with people.
Yeah. Well, and we did a lot online in the first couple of weeks. We gave away a lot of solo rules. And we just said, look, if you've got any of these games, here's how you play them solo. It's a good experience. It's not written to our gaming standards that we would publish as a paid-for product or as a Kickstarter. But in terms of setting your stuff up and having some fun with Dead Zone or with Walking Dead or Vanguard, here you go, have at it. And I think the other thing is with our hobby, if you're alone, if you haven't got anyone you can play with, you've not only just got the playing time, you've got the painting, and I'm going to paint those figures up, and then I'm going to play tomorrow. And so it can consume 2 or 3 evenings. And at the moment, there's all kind of treading water. Marking time is part of the thing. Anything that gets you through another day is a good thing. So the solo, and then a number of our games are The Walking Dead, for example, picked up because I think there's a certain ironic twist about playing an apocalypse game in the apocalypse, so there's a certain irony there. But we're also finding that we're asking someone to play Kings of War or 40k or one hardcore toy soldier game is not something you can ask your partner or your kids to do. Playing The Walking Dead, you can. It's 40 quid. I think it's on sale this weekend with our open day. But you can put that out, put the mat out. You're playing on your kitchen table. The models are assembled. And you can actually have a game half an hour after setting it up, after arriving. And then you can go and paint it and have the evenings doing the painting. But there's a willingness from partners and kids to say, "Oh, Dad, can I paint one? Can I paint the zombies? Or can we play again tomorrow night?" And these games are specifically designed for that kind of hybrid or crossover, where there isn't the 200 figures that need buying, the army lists that need building, the scenarios that need balancing. So yeah.
So let's change it up a bit. And you're not allowed to say one of your own games. What is your favorite game that isn't one of your own games?
Backgammon.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. If you're going to take a game that's the most, because I love the playoff between the strategy and the dice, and because it's one of those like Othello, where it's so simple, but the dice adds a dimension, and you've got the doubling dice on top.
I've never played it. That's one that I've never played. I've never played Backgammon.
And it's and I play it in the same way as I kind of play Kings of War. I love to double down. I'd rather lose big and have some fun playing than play it cautious and safe. But it's one of those games that people can't believe that with 2 dice and all you're doing is rolling dice and moving pieces, how can there be any strategy? And you say, yeah, okay, that's why it survived 2,000 years, and it's a fascinating game. So back at its core, and probably that essence is why Kings of War is the way it is. It's a terrific game. So if I was going to have to be on a desert island and play a game from now to the end of time, it would be Backgammon.
What kind of genres of games have inspired you to create? I think I probably know the answer, but what has inspired you to create the games that you've come out with, or your favorite ones of your creations?
I mean, what's inspired me? I mean, I think what is unique probably about Mantic and our games is that at its core, we're a toy soldier company. The miniatures and the things you do in the space between you is the critical factor, and the cards, army lists, rules are the supporting thing that allow you to do that. And I know a board game says the same thing. It's on the board. It kind of is, but the board is the setting, and the cards you have are how those two things interact. And ours is that's the miniatures. It's not a board, it's a miniatures. And where it is on the board, is it 3 levels up and it's higher, then you're going to get a bonus. It's not the card that comes out that gives you the bonus, it's where you put that miniature. And so I think that's because deep down, I like miniatures. I like the visual aspects of the wargaming experience. I think second to that, the inspiration has been, say, my boys growing up. And I think what we're now getting is a second generation of gamer where a dad wants to play with his son. And I think it's that, if you enjoy going fishing, you may well go deep sea fishing with your mates off the coast of the North Sea and drink a few beers and try and catch a shark. But you would love to take your son down to the local lake and have an hour or two with him playing with a basic fishing rod, And I think we're now getting to a stage where we've got past, being embarrassed by our hobby and beaten up at school for it. But now we're bringing our kids through, and the things like The Walking Dead and Hellboy are experiences that we want to share. And the license allows people to hook into that. And I want to play with my boys, and I want other people to be able to do that. So kind of those two things are the kind of inspirations for where our games come from.
When you come up with a new game, or you help one of your many great designers come up with a new game, where do you start?
Kind of like the same answer. I think it starts with minis and narrative. I think those are the two things that we probably come at. So if you look at Vanguard, for example, so Kings of War, great game, but hardcore, player versus player, 200 figure, but it's only 8-10 units, war game with army lists. It's the full unadulterated war game experience. And in some ways, the narrative takes second place in that. Generally, because the people that like playing that game want to set up and play against 5 or 6 people over a weekend, different settings, different challenges, the gameplay. And so every commitment there is high. The figure count, the rules knowledge, the time. So when we came to Vanguard, we didn't just want to reduce the figure count. We also wanted to add the narrative and perhaps speed up the game experience so you can have 2 or 3 games a night. So it's a combination of what are we going to tone up on, what we're going to tone down on, how we're going to make it visually interesting, and how are we going to allow players to tell a story that's both a competitive experience, but to a greater or lesser extent, can be also a narrative experience. And I think it's got to, in the DNA of making a game, you've got to know which you're going to try. We're going to go for a 5 out of 5 on. So with Kings of War, Vanguard, we went for quite a high narrative. There's a lot of scenarios. They fed into your big battles if you chose to. But the idea of your elite hardcore mercs that your general sends out to go and capture a giant, or sends out to kind of disrupt the enemy's munitions flow, or like the beacons to bring in reinforcements. Well, those are all the kind of cool war movies we've ever seen, and they've been rolled into that narrative. So the gameplay in that one was probably slightly less important than making sure that the story was told of an elite crack unit of Where Eagles Dare style, the Dirty Dozen style war game.
So you've taken quite a few products now from the notepad all the way through to market. What is one time or a couple of times that stick in your mind where you've hit brick walls or issues, and then how did you overcome those issues?
Okay, that's a good question. So where are the brick walls and how do we overcome them? I mean, you've got kind of 2 levels of brick wall. You've got the Walking Dead was a good one, because what we were trying to do had never been done before, which was essentially make a player versus player game, quite narrative, so picking up objectives, not just killing each other. But we wanted the walkers to be the third dimension, and a very important dimension. And we like it in saying that the scenery not only moves, it bites you too. And so quite quickly we tapped onto the idea of the herd. So a survivor fighting one walker, one red dice versus whatever the survivor's got. Not really a threat. You still, and because we averaged out the dice, there's kind of nothing, 1 point, which is a 3 and a 4 and a 6. So you can either get no damage, 1 damage, or 2 damage and a critical. That's the red dice. And then you've got white dice and blue dice that are better than that. And then you can just basket dice together. So Rick running along, with a white dice and a blue dice, actually could still roll a blank. The zombie rolls a 6, and suddenly Rick's in trouble, and your whole plans have changed. But usually they'll be there. But we came up with the idea with, okay, but 2 walkers isn't 2 dice, it's 1 for the first and 2 for the second. And 3 walkers is 1 for the first, 2 for the second, and 3 for the third. And 4 is... So with 4 walkers, you got 10 dice. So it really cranked up that threat and that feeling of claustrophobia. So that worked very early. That clicked into place quite quickly. The more of them you are, and then we just had to balance how many were on a table. The second issue was, how did you get them to close in? Not too quickly and not too fast. How did you have some degree of control as a player to interact with them without it turning into the Benny Hill show? And probably your readers won't recognise this because you're too young, but at the end of the Benny Hill, he'd do something offensive, and then he'd get chased by every cast member from the previous scene. And a number of the early games, we having 6. So what happened is, you'd run over here, shoot, they'd come. Someone else would do something on the other side. They'd run back over there. They'd run here. They'd run there. And these walkers were like, scootling around like crazy, but never actually getting hold of the players. And so it took us quite a long time, and we were messing with distances and ranges. And then we came up with the idea of the kill zone, so that they move, and if they come in contact with you, so they move once. But if you do another action, they go again. Always in a straight line. But once they've hit a barricade, they move around it. They're not totally stupid. They hit it first, stops. So you can position yourself. I'll do this. Second time around, they come. And then once they're within a certain range in their turn, they all just pile in. And so what happened was, so that was a kind of good example where it had to be iterative. We knew what we were trying to create. We got the first half of the answer quite quickly, but then we had to play, get all the other rules right, and then say, right, now how do we make these things do what we need them to do? And do them in a force that, you shoot your gun, you've not got 6 of them on you instantly, unless you're dumb. But if you run and fire your gun, you're going to get caught, and they're going to overwhelm you. And so, yeah, that was a really good example of us kind of using playtesting and having a design idea to finesse the game.
How has the world at present and our current situation affected how you work?
Okay, I mean, I think there's all of our staff working from home and are working from home, and they're doing a very, very good job. We do have issues that, just like the internet speed isn't fast enough, so graphic design work is much tougher for the guys working at home, much slower. We've then started to bump into issues like playtesting, where we would now be every Wednesday playtesting the kind of October games, and we'd be just staying behind after work for an hour or 2 and thrashing through it. And there's no kind of substitute for that. We're now having to look at kind of tabletop stimulation, or guessing a little more, or going to people, play testers, and say, look, who's living with people they can play test with. So we're just kind of having to it's not fundamentally changed us, but all around the edges, everything is starting to fray and to get there.
So, from your experience, what would be the one? So, if you knew somebody that had this idea in their head and they wanted to start making a game, what would your biggest piece of advice be to that person?
I think get some rules down and start playing it. And play it with a few friends, play it yourself a couple of times, get it to a place that you're happy with, and get it along to a club or to get a small group. And there's lots of people who love to be in the early stages of a game development. Get a Facebook page going and have a go and talk to people and get gaming and enjoy it. There's a lot of people that make the game that they've wanted to make, but then they put it on Kickstarter. Suddenly, is it a business or isn't it a business? I have a full-time job, and it's not easy to run a gaming company, and it can suck the joy out of creating something that you want on your shelf forever. So I'd say to people, enjoy it. Think of it as writing a novel. It's probably worse than writing a novel. It's probably harder than writing a novel. It's probably even more emotional than writing a novel. Enjoy it. And if you do kickstart it, enjoy that, and then deliver it, and then really ask yourself if you want to do it again. But don't put yourself under pressure, and be very careful when you do take Kickstarter, because you can get yourself in a lot of trouble very quickly in terms of the tooling and the manufacturing costs and shipping costs and all the other things that we take for granted, but are blinking hard work and trip even 30-year veterans up. I've got a catalogue of things I've done wrong in the last 10 years that you just have to learn from. So, but yeah, write it, play it, enjoy it. And for not a lot of money these days, you can get a digital print of your game done. And for £100, you can kind of have it there on your shelf and give it to your club and have some fun with it. Think carefully before you take it any further.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much for coming and speaking to me today, Ronnie. This has been eye-opening.
Well, my pleasure. And just let all your readers know that on this weekend we've got our open day, which we're doing on Discord, which you've introduced me to. So thank you very much for that. We're just hanging around online, having a virtual chat, showing off our games, running demos, free rules being given away, lots of solo play rules, lots of crazy deals with crazy bobbies trying to come out. So we're just going to hang around and try and break up this monotony of all that hardcore dance that it's got to be. So yeah, feel free to join us online this weekend on the Mantic Open Day, 10 till 4 UK time.
Brilliant. Thanks, Ronnie.
My pleasure. Thanks, Chris.